They say weddings are a celebration of family, of gratitude, but the day my daughter-in-law married my son, she pulled me aside and told me, "Sign over the house. You are old. You do not need it." When I refused, she slapped me so hard I hit the wall. No one stopped her, not even my son. I did not raise my voice. I did not cry. I simply walked out. I made a single phone call, and in a few hours, everything was gone. What happened next? You have to see it to believe it. Before we continue, tell us where you are watching from. For 40 years, I worked at the county clerk office in the city. 40 years stamping birth certificates, death certificates, and marriage licenses. 40 years watching families in their most important moments. While I returned every night to a silent house where only Michael waited for me to have dinner. After I lost my husband when Michael was barely 8 years old, every dollar I saved had a purpose. To give my son what I never had. I remember when Michael told me about Emily for the first time. His eyes shined in a way I had not seen since he was a child, and asked me to read him bedtime stories. "She is special, Mom," he told me. "She is different from all the others." I smiled and nodded while I served the pancakes and bacon he loved, just the way he liked them, without burning the edges. On Sunday mornings, Michael came to have breakfast with me. It was our sacred ritual. But little by little, those visits became less frequent. First it was Emily has plans too. Then we have to see her family. Until Sundays became silent and I learned to make coffee for just one person. When they asked me for help with the wedding, I did not hesitate for a second. I sold the few jewels I had left from my mother. I withdrew savings I had reserved for any emergency. I wanted Michael to have the wedding of his dreams. I paid for the venue. A beautiful estate with an ocean view. I hired the best catering. The photographer I had seen in a magazine. Everything without him asking me, because a mother does not need to be asked. The truth is that for months I had felt how Emily was pushing me out of Michael's life. The phone conversations became shorter, the dinner invitations more scarce, but I thought that after the wedding, when we were officially family, things would improve. How naive I was. The rehearsal was held at the same estate where the ceremony would be the next day. I arrived early, as I always do, carrying a small bouquet of jasmine from my garden for Emily. A simple gesture, I thought. A welcome to the family. The estate was spectacular. The golden lights reflected in the water of the infinity pool, and beyond that the ocean stretched out like a blue silk sheet under the sunset. The waiters I had hired moved silently, serving glasses of champagne and small appetizers. Everything was perfect. Everything had come out of my savings. But seeing Michael smile while he practiced his vows, I felt that every dollar had been worth it. I watched from a corner how Emily directed everyone like an orchestra conductor. She wore an immaculate white dress, for the rehearsal no less, and her hair was up in a bun that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Around her, her family and friends surrounded her like satellites, laughing too loud, talking too loud, occupying all the space. "Mrs. Agnes?" Sarah, the wedding planner, approached with her professional smile. "Everything is turning out beautiful. The place you chose is truly spectacular." "Thank you, Sarah. I just want Michael to be happy. It shows that you love him very much," Sarah said. And something in her tone made me look at her more closely. There was an expression in her eyes that I could not decipher. While Michael rehearsed his entrance with the best man, I saw little Lily, Emily's niece, who would be the flower girl. She was barely 6 years old and was hiding behind a column, overwhelmed by so much noise and movement. I approached her with a small cookie I had kept in my purse. "Are you okay, honey?" Lily nodded shyly but accepted the cookie. Her big brown eyes reminded me of Michael when he was little. "Tomorrow you are going to look very pretty in your flower dress," I told her softly. "Are you Michael's grandmother?" she asked me. Before I could answer, Emily's shrill voice cut the air like a knife. "Lily, what are you doing there? Come here right now." The girl ran off and I was left alone by the column, feeling suddenly like an intruder at a party I had paid for myself. The rehearsal continued. Michael stumbled twice over his lines, nervous, and Emily corrected him each time with a giggle that did not reach her eyes. I saw how Emily's mother, Linda, a woman with too much jewelry and too much makeup, whispered something in her friend's ears while looking at me. I did not need to hear the words to know what they were talking about. When the formal part ended, everyone headed to the main hall for the rehearsal dinner. I looked for my place at the tables. I had helped Sarah with the seating chart, and I was surprised to find myself at a table in the back next to some of Michael's distant cousins I barely knew. Emily and Michael presided over the main table, surrounded by their inner circle. No one seemed to miss my absence there. During dinner, I heard fragments of conversations about the condo Michael and Emily had seen downtown, about the honeymoon plans in the Maldives that I had financed, about the bright future that awaited them. No one mentioned who had made all that possible. After dessert, when some guests began to say goodbye, Emily approached my table. She held a half-empty glass of champagne and a smile I did not recognize. "Agnes, can I talk to you for a moment?" Her voice sounded sweet, but there was something sharp underneath. "In private." I stood up and followed her to a side terrace more secluded where the party lights barely reached. The sound of the ocean was louder here, and a fresh breeze moved the white curtains decorating the space. "Tomorrow is going to be a very special day." Emily began swirling the glass in her hands, the beginning of a new life for Michael and for me. "Yes, I am very happy for you two. That is why I wanted to talk to you. You see, Agnes?" She stopped as if choosing her words carefully. "Michael and I have been talking about the future, about how we want to live, about what we need to be truly happy." I waited in silence, although something in my stomach began to twist. The thing is, we have seen a beautiful condo downtown, modern with ocean views, perfect to start our family. But we need a considerable down payment and, well, she took a step closer. "Your house is in a very good location. It is worth a lot of money." "My house?" "Michael told me it is yours completely paid off. $450,000, right?" Her smile widened. "We thought it would be the perfect wedding gift. We would keep the new condo. And you, well, you could move into something smaller, more appropriate for a person of your age." The words took a moment to cut through the confusion in my mind. "Are you asking me to give you my house? Not asking you, Agnes, expecting it." Her tone changed, becoming colder. "You are an old woman. You live alone in a house that is too big. We are young. We are going to have children. It makes more sense, do you not think? Emily, that house is everything I have. It is where Michael grew up, where all my memories with his father are. The memories are in your heart, not in the walls," she replied impatiently. "Besides, it is not like we are going to leave you on the street. We could help you find a small apartment near the center, more comfortable for you." I stared at her, trying to understand if I was really hearing what I thought I was hearing. "Emily, I am not going to give you my house." Her smile vanished completely. "Excuse me?" I said, "I am not going to give you my house. It is my home." The silence that followed was dense, heavy. I could hear the party continuing in the distance, the laughter and conversations that seemed to come from another world. Agnes said Emily, and now her voice trembled with barely contained rage. "I think you do not understand the situation. Michael is your only son. We are his family now, and family helps each other. I have helped. I paid for this wedding. I paid for the honeymoon. That is the least you can do." Her voice rose dangerously. "Michael has taken care of you all his life. He has sacrificed opportunities for you. It is time you give something back." "Emily, lower your voice, please. Do not tell me what to do. You are a selfish old woman who does not want to let go of control." I heard footsteps approaching. Some of the bridesmaids appeared on the terrace, attracted by the commotion. Among them was little Lily, who immediately hid behind one of the young women. Everything is fine, I said softly, trying to calm the situation. We were just talking. It is not fine, screamed Emily. This woman refuses to help her own son after everything Michael has done for her. Emily, please. And then it happened so fast I barely had time to process it. Emily's hand went up and the slap resonated like a gunshot in the night. My cheek burned and the metallic taste of blood spread through my mouth where I bit my tongue. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the ocean seemed to stop. I saw Lily's eyes, huge and terrified, before she hid completely behind her chaperone. I saw the shocked faces of the other women. I saw Sarah appear in the doorway with an expression of horror she tried to hide professionally. And I saw Michael. My Michael, who came running when he heard the noise. He stopped dead when he saw the scene. He looked at my red cheek and then at his fiancée, and he said nothing. Nothing. He stood there with his mouth open, with his eyes jumping between Emily and me, like a child who does not know which toy to choose. I put my hand to my cheek, feeling the heat of the blow spreading. Everyone was looking at me, waiting for a reaction, waiting for screams, tears, drama. Instead, I straightened up. I smoothed my skirt. I looked Emily in the eyes for a moment that seemed eternal. "Good night," I said simply, and I walked away. I walked slowly through the main hall where some guests were still drinking and laughing, unaware of what had happened outside. I picked up my purse from the table. I said goodbye politely to the few who came over to greet me, and I went out to the parking lot. Only when I was inside my small sedan with the doors locked and the engine running did I allow my hands to tremble on the steering wheel. But I did not cry. Not yet. Because I knew exactly what I was going to do next. The drive back home was like driving through a thick fog. The city lights flickered on my sides, but my mind was completely focused on one single thing. The little blue notebook I kept in the top drawer of my desk, where I had written down all the phone numbers of the wedding vendors. I parked on my quiet street where the streetlights cast circles of yellow light on the wet asphalt. My house welcomed me in silence, familiar and cozy, with the scent of the basil pots I tended on the balcony. I poured myself a glass of water and sat in the kitchen under the fluorescent light that flickered slightly. The blue notebook was exactly where I had left it, next to the photographer's invoice and the receipts of the payments I had made in advance. $450,000, Emily had said. The value of my house. The house where Michael had taken his first steps, where I had healed his scraped knees, where we had spent countless nights watching movies on the sofa after his father died. The house they now wanted me to give away as if it were an old rag. I picked up the phone and dialed the first number. Telling and preparing this story took us a long time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, Elderly Stories. It means a lot to us. Now let us get back to the story. It was 11:30 at night, but Sarah, the wedding planner, had put her personal number on the contract with a note that said, "Available 24 hours for emergencies." This definitely qualified as an emergency. "Hello?" Her voice sounded sleepy but alert. "Sarah, it is Agnes. I'm sorry to call you so late." "Mrs. Agnes." There was a pause and I could hear her sitting up in bed. "I saw what happened tonight. Are you okay?" Her genuine concern surprised me. In my 40 years of work, I had learned to distinguish between professional courtesy and real interest. This was the latter. "I am fine, Sarah, but I need to talk to you about tomorrow." "Of course." "What do you need?" "I need to cancel everything." The silence on the other end of the line stretched for several seconds. When Sarah spoke again, her voice was careful, professional. "Everything, Mrs. Agnes? Everything that is in my name. The estate, the catering, the flowers, the photographer, the music, everything I hired and paid for. Mrs. Agnes, I understand you are upset, but tomorrow is the wedding. The guests are already in town, some are coming from other states." "Sarah," I interrupted her gently, "did you read the clauses of the contract we signed?" Another pause. I could hear the sound of papers being moved. "Yes, of course I read them. You have the right to cancel up to 12 hours before the event, but then you know I am within my rights? Yes, technically yes, but no buts, Sarah. Cancel everything. Tonight. I waited, listening to her breathing on the other end of the line. I knew she was calculating, weighing the professional implications against what she had witnessed that night. Can I ask why? Because I no longer want to pay for a wedding where the bride hits me and my son says nothing to defend me. The words came out with more force than I had intended, but it was the pure and simple truth. I understand, Sarah said finally. And the groom? Does Michael know about this decision? Michael will have to learn to make his own decisions and face the consequences. It is time. All right, Mrs. Agnes. But some vendors are going to cause problems for the last minute. Cancellation and some deposits cannot be recovered. The deposits that are lost are lost. It is a price I am willing to pay. Agreed. I will start right now. The estate, the catering, the flowers, the photographer, the band. Anything else? Were the fireworks also included? Yes, the fireworks for midnight. Cancel them too. Perfect, Mrs. Agnes. Sarah hesitated a moment. For what it is worth, I think you are doing the right thing. After hanging up with Sarah, I made myself some tea and sat in the living room with the blue notebook open on my knees. One by one, I crossed out the phone numbers I would no longer need to call. Sarah would handle most of it, but there were some contracts only I could cancel directly. At 12:15, I called Mike from the transport service I had hired to take the guests from the hotel to the estate. Mrs. Agnes, is something wrong with tomorrow? Mike, I need to cancel the bus service. Cancel? But the wedding is tomorrow. There will be no wedding, Mike. But ma'am, my drivers are already confirmed the buses are ready. I will pay you the full cancellation fee. Do not worry about that. I just need you not to pick anyone up tomorrow. Are you sure? This is going to cause a lot of confusion. I am completely sure. After convincing Mike, I called the hotel where some out-of-town guests were staying. I could not cancel their rooms, but I could make sure there were no special services I had hired for them. The hardest call was to the dress shop where I had ordered a new outfit for the occasion. Not because there was a contractual problem, but because the owner, Karen, was an older woman like me and had put a lot of care into helping me choose something elegant but appropriate for the mother of the groom. Karen, I am sorry to bother you so late. Agnes. Dear, what is wrong? Any problem with the dress? No, the dress is perfect. It is just that I am not going to need it anymore. What do you mean you are not going to need it? Tomorrow is the wedding. There will be no wedding, Karen. What? Did they break up? So suddenly. It is complicated. I can return the dress tomorrow. Sure, do not worry about that. But Agnes, are you okay? You sound different. Karen had known me for years. I had bought the dress for my husband's funeral there and later the suit for Michael's graduation. She had a good eye for reading people. I am fine, Karen. Maybe better than I have been in a long time. When I finished all the calls, it was almost 2 a.m. I sat on the sofa looking at the notebook full of crossed-out numbers, feeling a strange mix of exhaustion and energy. It was as if I had been holding my breath for months, and finally I could exhale. The phone rang. It was Michael. Mom, what have you done? His voice sounded desperate, upset. In the background, I could hear Emily screaming something I could not make out. Hello, Michael. How are you? How am I? Mom, Sarah just called me. She says you canceled everything. That is correct. You cannot do that. The wedding is tomorrow. There are 150 guests. The guests can go home early. They will have a free Saturday. Mom, this is crazy. You cannot cancel your own son's wedding. I am not canceling your wedding, Michael. I am canceling my payments. It is the same thing. No, it is not the same thing. If you want to get married tomorrow, you can do it. But you will have to find your own way to pay for it. But everything is already organized. Everyone is going to come expecting a party. Then perhaps you should have thought about that before allowing your fiancé to hit me. Silence. A long and tense silence. Mom. Emily was very upset, very nervous about the wedding. It was not her. Seriously, Michael? That is your defense. I am not defending what she did, but you did nothing to stop it. You stood there while she humiliated me in front of all those people. I did not know what to do. It all happened so fast. You knew perfectly well what to do, Michael. The thing is, you chose not to do it. I heard Emily screaming in the background, demanding to speak to me. Michael told her to calm down, but his voice had no authority. Mom, please, we can fix this. Emily is willing to apologize. Oh, really? And you too? Me? Why do I have to apologize? For staying silent? For not defending me? For allowing her to treat me like that? Mom, it is not that simple. Yes, Michael. Yes, it is that simple. Emily managed to snatch the phone from him. Her voice came through hysterical, screeching. Agnes, you cannot do this. It is my wedding, my special day. Your special day ended when you hit me. It was a mistake. I was nervous. I apologize. Too late, Emily. You are a bitter old woman. You have always been jealous of our relationship. Good night, Emily. I hung up the phone and unplugged it from the wall. I did not want any more calls that night. I stayed awake until dawn, not because I could not sleep, but because I did not want to. There was a mental clarity I had not felt in years, as if a fog I did not know existed had finally lifted. I made coffee when the first rays of sun entered through the kitchen window. My cheek still hurt a little, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the liberation I felt in my chest. At 7 in the morning, the landline started ringing. I had plugged it back in because I knew Sarah might need to confirm some cancellation details, but it was not Sarah. It was Emily's mother. Agnes? It is Linda, Emily's mother. Good morning, Linda. Agnes, please, you have to reconsider this. The kids are desperate. The kids are 32 years old, Linda. They are adults. Yes, but you know how weddings are. Everyone is nervous. Things are said that are not really felt. Do you think Emily did not really feel the desire to hit me? Well, she was very upset. Linda, with all due respect, your daughter asked me to give her my house. When I told her no, she hit me. And your son-in-law did nothing to stop her. What would you have done in my place? She did not know what to answer. Look, Agnes, I understand you are upset, but you cannot ruin my daughter's life for a moment of... I'm not ruining anyone's life. I simply stopped paying for my own humiliation. After hanging up with Linda, I decided to go for a walk. I needed fresh air and wanted to avoid more phone calls. I put on my most comfortable sneakers and went out to the park where I used to walk on Sunday mornings. The city was waking up slowly. The bakers already had their shops open, the aroma of fresh bread mixing with the salty air coming from the ocean. I passed the bench where I sometimes sat to read the newspaper, by the stand where I bought the crossword puzzle magazine on Fridays. Everything seemed sharper, more present, as if I had been seeing the world through foggy glass and finally someone had wiped it clean. In the park, I met Mrs. Mercedes, a neighbor who also used to get up early to walk. Agnes, how are things? Is not today Michael's wedding? Good morning, Mercedes. Yes, it was supposed to be today. Supposed to be? Has something happened? Let us just say plans have changed. Mercedes looked at me with curiosity, but she was too polite to insist. We walked together for a while talking about the weather, about the new construction in the neighborhood, about simple and pleasant things that had nothing to do with canceled weddings or broken promises. When I returned home, I saw Michael's car parked on my street. He was sitting on the steps of my entrance with his head in his hands. He was wearing the suit he had bought for the wedding, but his tie was loosened and his hair was messy. "Hello, Michael." He looked up. His eyes were red as if he had been crying. "Mom, please, you have to help us. Where is Emily?" "At the hotel, crying. She has not stopped all night." "And the guests?" "Some have already left. Others are asking what is happening." "It is a disaster, Mom." I sat next to him on the steps. For a moment, he was the little boy I comforted when he had nightmares again. "Michael, do you know why I did this? Because Emily hit you. I know it was wrong." It was. Not just because she hit me. Do you know what she asked me before hitting me? Michael shook his head. She asked me to give you my house. This house where you grew up. She told me I was too old to live here alone. I saw his eyes widen with surprise. She asked you what? $450,000, Michael. That is what this house is worth according to your fiancé. And according to her, I should give it to you as a wedding gift. Mom, I did not know anything about that. I swear, you did not know anything. Not even that you have been looking at condos downtown? Michael's expression changed. He did know that. Well, yes. We have seen some condos, but we never talked about asking for your house. That was Emily's idea. And when she told you her plan, what did you tell her? Michael remained silent. What did you tell her, Michael? I told her you would never accept something like that. But you did not tell her it was wrong to ask me? You did not tell her it was inappropriate? You did not tell her that this house means more to me than money? You did not tell her you would look for another solution? Mom, things are not that simple. Yes, Michael, yes, they are that simple. I stood up and took out my house keys. Where are you going? Inside. I have things to do. I can come in with you. I looked at him for a long moment. My son, with his wrinkled suit and his lost boy eyes, waiting for me to rescue him as I had always done. Not today, Michael. And I entered my house, closing the door softly behind me. From the kitchen window, I saw him sit on the steps a while longer, looking at his phone, probably deciding who to call to fix the mess. Finally, he stood up, smoothed his suit, and left. That afternoon, Sarah called me to confirm that all cancellations had been completed successfully. Some vendors had caused problems, but she had handled everything with professionalism. How did the bride and groom take it? I asked her. To be honest, Mrs. Agnes, I think they have not yet realized the full magnitude. They are trying to get a last-minute venue, but on a Saturday afternoon. I understand. Mrs. Agnes, if I may say so, I think you did the right thing. In my 15 years organizing weddings, I have seen many things, but I had never seen a mother treated that way. Thank you, Sarah. And now what are you going to do? It was a good question. I looked around my kitchen with its walls full of photos of Michael, his cupboards full of his favorite foods, his special mug still in the drainer. Now I am going to live my life. That night, for the first time in months, I ate dinner in peace. I made myself an omelet, poured myself a glass of wine I kept for special occasions, and put on music. Not wedding music, not waltzes, not wedding marches. I put on old jazz that always reminded me of my youth, when everything was possible and the future stretched infinite ahead. Tomorrow I would call James, my old friend and attorney. The time had come to put my affairs in order, completely in order. Sunday dawned with that golden light characteristic of the coast that makes everything look like a painting. I woke up early as always, but for the first time in months, I did not feel that pressure in my chest that had accompanied me since the wedding preparations began. I made coffee, watered my balcony plants, and sat in my favorite armchair with the newspaper. There was no news about canceled weddings in the local section, of course. Life continued normal for the rest of the world, while somewhere in the city, 150 guests were probably waking up and wondering what to wear for a ceremony that no longer existed. At 9 a.m, the phone rang. It was James, my old friend, the retired notary who had been a co-worker of my late husband at City Hall. Agnes, dear, I just spoke with Sarah. Is it true what she told me? Depends on what she told you. That you canceled the wedding after the bride hit you. Then it is true. James sighed deeply on the other end of the line. How are you, Agnes? Surprisingly well, James. Better than I have felt in a long time. Sarah told me you might need legal advice. That is right. Could you come to the house this afternoon? I think it is time to review my will and some other documents. Of course. Is 5 okay? Perfect. After hanging up, I decided to give myself a treat I had not allowed myself in a long time. Breakfast at my favorite neighborhood cafe. I dressed carefully. I chose my favorite blue blouse, the one that made me feel elegant without being showy, and I went out to walk downtown. The morning was beautiful. The cobblestone streets shone after the night rain, and the air had that freshness only found near the ocean. I passed by the cathedral where some couples were posing for wedding photos. I wondered absently if any of them were living the drama I was supposed to be living at that moment. At the cafe, Joe the owner greeted me with his usual smile. "Mrs. Agnes, how are things? Wasn't today Michael's wedding?" "Good morning, Joe." "Plans changed." "Oh, really? Did they postpone it?" "Something like that." I smiled, ordering my coffee and toast, as always. I sat at my usual table, next to the window facing the small square. From there, I could see families walking with their children, elderly couples holding hands, tourists checking maps with confused expressions. Normal life, simple life without drama. I was finishing my breakfast when I saw a family car I recognized immediately, Emily's mother's car. It stopped in front of the cafe, and Linda and two other women I recognized as the bride's aunts got out. They were coming straight towards me. Agnes said, Linda approaching my table with a tense smile. "What a coincidence meeting you here." "Good morning, Linda. Ladies, can we sit with you for a moment?" I nodded, although I knew perfectly well this was not a coincidence. They had been looking for me. Agnes began Linda once they sat down. "We have come to ask you to reconsider your decision. The kids are devastated." "The kids?" "Michael and Emily. Emily has not stopped crying since last night. Michael is like a wandering soul. And the guests, some have come from across the country." "I understand it is an uncomfortable situation," I said calmly, "but it was not my decision to create that situation. But it was your decision to make it worse," intervened one of the aunts. "You could have waited until after the wedding to resolve your problems." "My problems?" I looked at them one by one. "Do you know what your niece asked me before hitting me?" The three exchanged glances. "Yes, we know," admitted Linda, "and we agree it was poorly presented. But Emily is young. She is impulsive. Emily is 32 years old, Linda. She is not a child. But you are older. You are wiser. You could have handled the situation with more diplomacy." The word diplomacy rang in my ears like a discordant bell. Diplomacy? Do you think I should have been diplomatic after she hit me? Well, maybe hitting you was wrong, but you also could have been more understanding with her request, said the other aunt. After all, young people today need more help to start in life. I stared at them for a long moment, trying to process what I had just heard. "Are you suggesting I should have given her my house?" "Not given," Linda rushed to clarify, "but maybe a loan, a temporary help. My house is worth $450,000. It is not $5,000 to furnish an apartment. But you live alone, Agnes. It is a very big house for one person." And there it was again. The same argument Emily had used, as if living alone were a crime, as if needing space were an undue luxury for a woman my age. "Ladies," I said, standing up and leaving money on the table, "I think this conversation is over. Agnes, please." Linda stood up too. "We just want things to return to normal. Normal was your niece respecting me. That option no longer exists. But think about Michael. He is your son. Precisely for that reason, I am doing what I am doing." I left the cafe feeling stronger than when I had entered. Every encounter, every attempt at manipulation only confirmed I had made the right decision. The rest of the morning I spent at home organizing papers for my meeting with James. I found my original will, the property deeds to the house, and some other legal papers I had not reviewed in years. Everything was in order, but there were some things that definitely needed to change. At 12:30, Michael appeared at my door. This time he did not come alone. Emily was with him, although she stayed several steps back as if afraid to get too close. "Mom, can we talk?" "Of course, Michael, but she stays outside." "Mom Emily wants to apologize personally. I'm not interested. If she wants to talk to me, she can write me a letter. Please, Mom, just 5 minutes." I looked at Emily over Michael's shoulder. She was wearing a black dress as if she were in mourning, and her eyes were swollen from crying. But even in her apparently vulnerable state, there was something in her posture I did not like. A tension, as if she were holding something back. 5 minutes, Michael, just you. Michael turned to Emily and said something in a low voice. She nodded, but I saw her clench her fists. Mom started Michael once we were alone in the living room. This is becoming a scandal. Everyone is talking about it. And, Mom, it is humiliating. The guests are asking what happened. The vendors are furious. The hotel where we were going to stay is demanding explanations. Michael, at any point in everything you are telling me, have you thought about apologizing to me? Apologize for what? For not defending me when your fiancé hit me. Mom, I was in shock. I did not know how to react. You knew perfectly well how to react. You chose not to. Is it not that simple? Yes, it is that simple. This time, my voice rose. Your fiancé hit me in front of a bunch of people and you did nothing. Nothing, Michael. What did you want me to do? Start screaming at her in front of her whole family? I wanted you to be my son. I wanted you to defend me as I have defended you all your life. Michael remained silent, looking at the floor. Do you know how many times I have defended your decisions in front of others? I continued. When you left college, when you lost that job, when you decided to move in with Emily after knowing her only 3 months. I have always been on your side, Michael. Always. I know, Mom. You know? Then why, when I needed you to be on my side, did you choose to stay silent? Because I did not want to create more problems. More problems than your fiancé had already created? Michael finally looked me in the eyes. Mom, Emily made a mistake, a very big mistake. But she is still the woman I want to marry. Then marry her, Michael. But do it with your money, not with mine. Is that what you want? For me to get married without your blessing? What I want is for you to take responsibility for your decisions. If you want to marry a woman who hits your mother, that is your choice. But do not expect me to finance it. Mom, please, we cannot pay for another wedding. We had already spent all our savings on the honeymoon in the apartment. What apartment? Michael blushed. The condo downtown. We already signed the contract. You already signed? With what money? With our savings and... Well, we thought we would ask you for help for the rest. Did you think you would ask me for help? Or did you think you would ask me for my house? That was Emily's idea, not mine. But you did not stop her. I did not know she was going to ask you like that, so... directly. Michael, did you want my house? The question hung in the air between us. I saw how Michael struggled with the answer, how he weighed honesty against convenience. I thought maybe when you were older, when you could no longer take care of the house alone. When I was older? When? At 80? At 90? I do not know, Mom. I had not thought about the details. And in the meantime, would you wait for me to die to keep the house, or would you prefer us to move to a nursing home so you could sell it sooner? Mom, that is horrible. I would never think something like that. No. But you did think I should give it to you now when I am 70 years old and in perfect health, because your fiancé decided you needed it. Michael ran his hands through his hair, a gesture he had done since he was a child when he felt cornered. I do not know what you want me to say, Mom. I want you to tell me the truth. You thought you had a right to my house. You are my mother. I am your only son. Someday, it was going to be mine anyway. There it was, the truth raw and simple. Someday, Michael, when I die. Not now, when I have a perfectly valid life ahead of me. I know. Emily rushed things. She should not have asked you that now. Is the problem the when or the what? What do you mean? The problem is that she asked for the house now, or that she asked for the house at all. Michael did not answer. It was not necessary. His silence was answer enough. I think this conversation is over, I said, standing up. Mom, wait. What are we going to do with the wedding? That is up to you two. I already did what I had to do. And if we find a way to get married today, something simple, at the courthouse, That seems perfect. You only need 2 witnesses and $40. Would you come? The question caught me by surprise. For a moment, I saw the little boy asking me to come see his school play again. No, Michael, I would not go. Why not? Because I cannot bless a marriage that started with your fiancé hitting me. But I am your son, precisely for that reason. Michael left without saying anything else. From the window, I saw him meet Emily in the street. She asked him urgent questions, gesturing a lot. He shook his head several times. Emily started screaming, although I could not hear the words from my window. Finally, they got into the car and left. At 5 o'clock, sharp James arrived with his worn leather briefcase and a serious expression I had not seen since the days after my husband's funeral. Agnes, tell me exactly what happened. I told him everything from the beginning. Emily's request, the slap, Michael's passivity, the cancellations. James listened without interrupting, taking some occasional notes. And did Michael know about Emily's plans regarding your house? Not exactly, but he had an idea. And he did nothing to dissuade her. I understand. What do you want to do legally? I want to make sure that neither Michael nor Emily can claim anything from my estate. Ever. Ever is a very strong word, Agnes. Are you sure? Completely sure. James opened his briefcase and took out some documents. Very well. We can do several things. First, we can modify your will so Michael is not your automatic sole heir. We can establish conditions or even disinherit him completely. Can I do that? In this state, you can disinherit for just cause. Abuse or grievous insult can be considered just cause. Does allowing your fiancé to hit your mother count as grievous insult? A judge could interpret it that way, yes. Then do it. Do you want to disinherit him completely? I thought for a moment, looking at the photos of Michael covering the living room walls. Baby Michael. Michael at his first communion. Michael the day of his graduation. Michael on his last birthdays. Not completely, but I want him to know his actions have consequences. We can establish that he inherits only a minimal part, the strict statutory share marked by law, and the rest can go to whomever you choose. To whom could I give it? To a charity, friends, to any cause that matters to you. I thought of Sarah, who had risked her professional reputation to help me. I thought of the senior center where my mother had passed her last happy years. I thought of all the older women who were probably going through situations similar to mine. I want you to prepare several documents. James and I want Michael to receive a copy of all of them. Are you sure? Once he sees the documents, there's no turning back. There is not anyway. That night after James left with the list of legal changes we wanted to make, I made myself a simple dinner and sat on my terrace with an ocean view. The city lights stretched before me like fallen stars, and the sound of the waves arrived soft in the night breeze. For the first time in months, I felt at peace. It was not the peace of conflict avoided, but the peace of the decision made. The peace of knowing that finally I was living on my own terms. Tomorrow would be another day with its own challenges and decisions. But tonight, sitting on my own terrace in my own house, surrounded by my own things and my own memories, I was completely mine. And that was more than I had had in a long time. The peace of that night on my terrace was the last moment of calm I would have in several weeks. The next day, James arrived early with the documents we had discussed, and some more he had prepared during the night. I have been thinking about your situation, Agnes, he said while spreading papers on my kitchen table. There are several things we can do to protect you completely. What kind of things? First, the new will. I have drafted 3 different versions depending on how severe you want to be. He showed me the documents. The first version reduced Michael's inheritance to the strict statutory minimum 1/3 of my assets and allocated the rest to charities. The second disinherited him completely for family abuse. The third was intermediate. Michael would inherit half, but with very specific conditions. What kind of conditions? That he apologize publicly to you, that Emily do the same, and that both attend family therapy for at least a year before being able to access the inheritance. The idea seemed almost comical to me, Michael and Emily in therapy being forced to confront their actions. And if they do not fulfill the conditions, then the inheritance automatically goes to the charities. I like the third option. Perfect. Now I have also prepared a revocation of power of attorney. Did you ever give Michael power to act on your behalf? No, never. Why? Because I have seen cases where adult children obtain powers from their parents to help with paperwork and then use them to access bank accounts or make financial decisions without consulting. Michael has never asked me for anything like that. Good, but it is better to prevent. I also want you to sign a document specifying that any future donation or gift to Michael requires being notarized and having the presence of at least 2 independent witnesses. Do you think it is necessary? James looked at me seriously. Agnes, in my 40 years as an attorney, I have seen families destroy themselves over money. I have seen children manipulate older parents, pressure them, even threaten them. I am not saying Michael is going to reach those extremes, but after what happened, I understand. Do it. We spent the morning signing documents. My new will, the preventive revocation of powers, a document stating my wishes regarding future medical care, and finally, a letter addressed to Michael explaining the reasons for these changes. Do you want me to send him the documents today? Asked James. Yes, I want him to know exactly where he stands. After James left, I stayed home organizing other aspects of my life I had neglected during the months of wedding preparation. I called my bank to review my accounts, contacted my doctor to schedule checkups I had postponed. I even called a landscaping company to come prune the trees in my yard. It was strange how the crisis had put everything in perspective. Suddenly, I had energy for things I had been postponing for months. The phone rang mid-afternoon. It was Sarah. Mrs. Agnes, how are you? Good, Sarah, and you? How have you handled this whole matter professionally? Better than I expected, honestly. Some vendors were upset at first, but when I explained the circumstances, well, most understood, especially the women. The women? Yes, Karen, the florist, told me she had gone through something similar with her daughter-in-law. Mike from the catering has an 80-year-old mother and says he would have done the same as you. Even the photographer, who was furious at first about losing the job, changed his mind when he found out the details. How did they find out the details? Well, Sarah paused. Lily, the flower girl, told her mother what she saw, and her mother told some friends. And you know how these things are. Oh, Mrs. Agnes, is there something else? A journalist from the City Chronicle called me this morning. Apparently, he wants to write a story about what happened. I felt a chill in my stomach. A journalist? Yes. He says he has heard rumors about a canceled wedding after the bride assaulted the mother of the groom, and that it seems like an interesting story about modern family conflicts. I hope you did not tell him anything. No, of course not. I told him I could not comment on private matters of my clients, but I thought I should warn you. After hanging up with Sarah, I sat in my kitchen feeling a new worry. It was one thing to make a private decision about my own family and quite another to become a public spectacle. The phone rang again. This time, it was a voice I did not recognize. Mrs. Agnes? Yes, who is speaking? I am Jason Miller from the City Chronicle. I would like to talk to you about the events of last weekend. I have nothing to comment. Ma'am, I understand it was a very difficult situation for you. I would just like to hear your version of the facts. My version is my business, Mr. Miller, but I think your story could inspire other women in similar situations. I hung up the phone. Immediately, I unplugged it from the wall. An hour later, someone knocked on my door. Through the peephole, there was a young man with a notebook in his hand, obviously the journalist. I did not open the door, but I could hear him talking to my next-door neighbor, Mrs. Mercedes. Do you know Mrs. Agnes? Do you know anything about a canceled wedding? I could not hear Mercedes' response, but after a few minutes, the journalist left. That night, Michael appeared at my door with a copy of the legal documents James had sent him. His face was red with anger. "What is this, Mom?" he shouted, waving the papers. "Are you disinheriting me? Michael, lower your voice. The neighbors are going to hear you. I do not care if they hear me. My own mother is disinheriting me for defending my fiancé. Your fiancé hit me, and you did not defend her. You chose not to defend me. This is crazy. You cannot do this. Yes, I can, Michael, and I have done it. But I am your son, your only son. Exactly. You are all I have in this world, and still you chose to stay silent when that woman humiliated me. Michael entered the house without being invited and collapsed on the living room sofa. Mom, please. We can fix this. Emily is willing to apologize in person in front of whoever you want. Oh, really? And you too? Me, why do I have to apologize? Read the documents, Michael. It is explained very clearly there. Michael reviewed the papers with more attention. Family therapy. Public apologies. Mom, this is ridiculous. It is what you have to do if you want your inheritance. I should not have to do anything to get what is rightfully mine. And there it was again. That sense of entitlement, that my assets belong to him automatically. Michael, nothing I have is yours by right until I die, even then, only if I decide so. You are my mother. You are supposed to take care of me. I have taken care of you for 32 years. Now it is your turn to take care of yourself. Michael got up from the sofa, walking back and forth in the living room like a caged animal. Do you know what people are going to say when they find out about this? What are they going to say? That you are a bitter old woman who cannot stand seeing her son happy. His words hurt me more than I expected, but I kept my voice calm. If that is what you believe of me, Michael, then perhaps it is better that things stay as they are. That is not what I believe. It is what people are going to say. And you care more about what people say than what I feel? Michael stopped dead. That is not what I said. It is exactly what you said. He stood there with the crumpled documents in his hands, looking at me as if I were a stranger. I do not recognize you, Mom. This is not you. You are right, Michael. This is not me. The me from before would have endured in silence, would have pretended nothing happened, would have continued financing your life without asking anything in return. But that woman no longer exists. And who is this new version? It is a woman who respects herself. A woman who does not allow herself to be humiliated, not even by her own son. Michael folded the documents and put them in his pocket. If you change your mind. I am not going to change my mind, Michael. The conditions of the will are very specific. Yes, they are. And if I fulfill them, the apologies, the therapy, all that, then you will inherit half of my estate as specified. And the other half? It will go to places where something good is done with it. Michael nodded slowly. How much time do I have to decide? All the time you need. But meanwhile, the documents are signed and registered. After Michael left, I made myself some chamomile tea and sat on my terrace. The city lights flickered calmly under the starry sky, and for the first time in days, the phone did not ring. The next day, Mercedes told me the journalist had returned and had been talking to other neighbors. She also told me she had seen Emily in Michael's car crying. Do you think I know I did the right thing, Mercedes? Agnes Honey. I have 3 children and 6 grandchildren. If any of them allowed someone to hit me, I would do exactly the same as you. Her words comforted me more than I had expected. That afternoon, I started something I had not done in years, looking for activities for myself. I called the neighborhood community center to ask about painting classes. I contacted the library to find out about book clubs. I even looked up information on organized trips for seniors. For the first time in decades, I was planning a life revolving around me, not around Michael, and it felt strangely liberating. The weeks that followed were like waking up from a long and heavy dream. For the first time in years, my days did not revolve around Michael's needs or his wedding plans. Instead, I dedicated myself to rediscovering who Agnes was when she was not being a mother. The painting class at the community center turned out to be a revelation. I had not touched a brush for 30 years since before Michael was born, but my hands remembered the pleasure of mixing colors, of seeing shapes emerge on the canvas. The teacher, a woman my age named Rita, quickly became a confidant. Do you know what I like most about painting? She told me one Tuesday afternoon while we cleaned our brushes that every stroke is a decision, and you can choose whether to keep that decision or paint over it. I wish life were so easy to correct. I replied. Who says it is not? Her words stayed with me for days. Maybe I had been so focused on not being able to change the past that I had not really considered what I wanted to do with the future. The most dramatic change came when I decided to sell the house. The decision was not impulsive. For weeks, I had been walking through the rooms, noticing how every corner was full of memories of Michael as a child, but no longer of Michael as an adult. His room was still decorated as when he was 18. In the kitchen, I still kept his favorite cereals that he no longer ate. The garden was designed for a child who used to play there, not for a 70-year-old woman living alone. When I called the real estate agent, Rita was the first person I told. "Are you sure?" she asked me while we painted a seascape. "It is a very big decision. It is my house, but it is no longer my home. The difference is important. And where are you going to live?" I have been looking at apartments near the ocean, something smaller, more manageable, with a terrace where I can paint. And the money from the sale? Part will go to my new home. The rest... I have some ideas. One of those ideas had begun to take shape during my conversations with Rita and other women at the community center. There were more stories like mine than I had imagined. Older women pressured by relatives, manipulated, or simply ignored when trying to maintain their independence. In my time, Karen, a 75-year-old lady, had told me it was expected that older women be silent and grateful, that we accept any crumb of attention as if it were a favor. And now, I asked her, now we have options, but many women do not know it. That conversation gave me an idea I could not get out of my head. The apartment I chose was in a modern building, 5 minutes walk from the beach. 2 bedrooms, an open kitchen, and a terrace with an ocean view, where an easel and a comfortable chair fit perfectly. It was half the size of my house, but felt 3 times brighter. Michael appeared the day they came to appraise the house. "Mom, is it true you are going to sell?" "Good morning, Michael." "Yes, it is true. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because it is my house, not yours. But it is the house where I grew up. All my memories." "Your memories go with you, Michael. You do not need walls to keep them." Michael sat on the living room sofa looking around as if it were the first time he saw the place. "How much is it worth?" "More than I thought. The neighborhood has appreciated a lot in recent years." "And what are you going to do with the money?" "Part I will use to buy my new apartment. The rest will be for a special project." "What kind of project?" I told him about my conversations at the community center, about the stories I had heard about the idea I had been developing. "I want to create a foundation, a place where older women can find legal, emotional, and practical support when facing family or financial conflicts." Michael looked at me as if I had lost my mind. "A foundation? Mom, where did you come up with that idea?" "From experience, from realizing I am not the only woman in this situation. But that is going to cost you a fortune. It is my money, Michael, but it is my inheritance." There it was again. Everything always went back to the same thing. "Michael, have you thought about the conditions of the will? The public apologies and the therapy. Mom, that is humiliating. More humiliating than allowing your fiancé to hit me." Michael remained silent. "Where is Emily, by the way?" I asked. "We have separated temporarily." "Temporarily. She is living with her mother while we decide what to do." "And what have you decided? That maybe we get married next year when things calm down." "Things calm down?" "Michael, she hit me. That does not calm down, that gets confronted. I know, Mom, that is why we are in therapy. I was surprised to hear that. In therapy?" "Yes." "Emily started first for anger management. I started last week. Individual therapy or together?" "Individual for now. The therapist says we first have to work on our problems separately before addressing couple problems." It was more progress than I had expected. "And how is it going?" Michael ran his hands through his hair, his usual nervous gesture. It is hard. The therapist asks me questions that I do not like. What kind of questions? About how I treat you? About if I really see you as an independent person or just as my mother? About if I think I have a right to your things simply for being your son? And what have you answered? That maybe I have not been as fair to you as I thought. It was the first time in months Michael admitted some kind of responsibility. And Emily? She is working on her control issues. Apparently it has to do with her childhood, with always feeling financially insecure. Does that not justify what she did? No, it does not justify it, but at least it explains why she did it. We sat in silence for a while, surrounded by the boxes I had been filling with my belongings. Mom, about the conditions of the will. Yes, if I fulfill them, will you really go ahead with the foundation? I am going ahead with the foundation anyway, Michael. It is something I want to do for me, not something I do to punish you. And if I do not fulfill them, then the foundation will receive your share of the inheritance too. It will be bigger. It will be able to help more women. Michael nodded slowly. Can I ask you something? Of course. Will you ever forgive me? The question caught me off guard, not because I had not thought about forgiveness, but because I had not expected him to ask. Michael, it is not a question of forgiveness, it is a question of respect. What do you mean? I can forgive you for staying silent when Emily hit me. That was a moment of shock, of not knowing how to react. But what I cannot accept is that you continue thinking my assets belong to you automatically, that my decisions about my own life have to be consulted with you. But you are my mother. Yes, I am your mother, but I am also Agnes, a person with her own desires, needs, and rights. Michael stood up and walked to the window overlooking the garden where he had played as a child. Do you know what hurts me most about all this? He said without turning. That you are right. About what? That I have never seen you as a complete person. You have always been my mother, not Agnes, who is also my mother. And now I am starting to know Agnes, and I like her more than I expected. He turned to me with a sad smile. Do you think it is too late to start over? It is never too late, Michael. But it has to be a real beginning, not a return to the past. What does that mean? It means if you want to be part of my life, it has to be as the woman I am now, not as the mother I was before. Michael nodded. And the conditions of the will stand, but they are no longer about punishing you, Michael. They are about ensuring that any relationship we have in the future is based on mutual respect. That night after Michael left, I sat on my terrace with a glass of wine and a feeling I had not had in years. Hope. Not the hope that things would return to how they were, before it was the hope that things could be better than they had ever been. The move was scheduled for the following week. The foundation was still just an idea, but I had already spoken with a lawyer specializing in nonprofit organizations. Rita had accepted to be part of the board of directors, and several women from the community center had expressed interest in collaborating. For the first time in my life, I was building something that was completely mine. Not for Michael, not for anyone else. For me and for the women who, like me, had decided it was never too late to live on their own terms. The future stretched before me, uncertain but full of possibilities, and for the first time in years, that did not scare me, it made me want to live. 3 months after moving to my new apartment facing the ocean, I received a letter that would change everything. It was not from Michael, nor from Emily, nor even from any lawyer. It was from a woman named Helen from another state. Dear Mrs. Agnes, I read about your story in a newspaper article. I am 73 years old and I am going through a similar situation with my son and his wife. Could you tell me how you found the strength to defend your rights? I feel very alone. It was the first of many letters that would arrive in the following weeks. Apparently, the journalist had finally managed to publish a version of my story, without mentioning specific names, but with enough details so women in similar situations felt identified. Rita was with me when I opened the 5th letter that morning. We'd established the routine of having breakfast together on my terrace on Wednesdays, planning the details of what we had already decided to call the Dignity Foundation. "Look at this," I told her, showing her the letter from a woman whose son had emptied her savings account to buy a new car. Each story is different, but the pattern is always the same. What pattern? Women who have given everything for their families, and when they try to establish boundaries, they are made to feel selfish or ungrateful. Rita read the letter over my shoulder. "What are you answering them?" "For now, just that they are not alone, but I think we can do more." "Like what? Remember you mentioned your daughter is a social worker?" "Yes, Mary works in social services. Do you think she would be willing to help us develop a support program? Something more structured than just answering letters?" Rita smiled. "I will ask her, but knowing my daughter Mary, she is probably already preparing proposals before I finish explaining the idea." That afternoon, while I painted on my terrace, I heard familiar voices in the street. It was Michael, but he did not come alone. I recognized Emily's voice, although it sounded different, softer, less aggressive than the last time I had heard it. When they rang the doorbell, I waited a moment before opening. Michael was nervous as always when he had something important to say. Emily was hesitant, but maintained a certain distance as if not sure of her welcome. "Hello," Mom said, "Michael. Can we talk to you?" "Sure, come in." I guided them to the terrace where I had prepared iced tea and some cookies I had made that morning. Emily looked around curiously. "It is very nice here," she said timidly. "Can you see the ocean?" "Yes, it is one of the reasons I chose this place." We sat in silence for a few moments. I could feel the tension, but it was different from our previous meetings. It was not the tension of conflict, but the tension of uncertainty. Finally, Emily spoke. "Agnes, I came to apologize. Real apologies, not the ones I should have asked for months ago." I looked at her closely. Her eyes were clear without the manic shine I had seen the night of the slap. "I have been in therapy," she continued, "and I have realized many things about myself that I do not like. My therapist says I have serious problems with control and financial security coming from my childhood. That does not justify what you did," I said softly. "No, it does not justify it. Nothing justifies hitting another person like that, and even less the mother of the person you love. It was despicable." Michael shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "I also came to apologize for my behavior," he said. "For not defending you, for thinking I had a right to your things, for not seeing you as a complete person. And now, do you see me differently?" "Yes," they responded almost in unison. Emily leaned forward. "Agnes, have you heard of the Dignity Foundation?" The question surprised me. "Why do you ask?" "Because I have been reading about it, about how it helps older women defend their rights. And I realized you are the woman from the newspaper article." "How did you know?" "The details coincided too much. And besides, when I spoke with my therapist about what happened, she mentioned she had heard of a similar case that had inspired a woman to create a foundation." Michael looked at me with admiration. "Mom, is it true? You created a foundation." "I am in the process of doing so." "Yes. With the money from the house sale?" "Part of it." Emily wiped her eyes with a tissue. "Do you know what hurts me most about all this? That you took the worst thing I did to you and turned it into something good for other women. I did not do it to turn anything Emily. I did it because it was the right thing." "I know, and that makes it even more impressive." Michael cleared his throat. "Mom, Emily, and I have been talking about the conditions of your will." "Oh, really? We want to fulfill them. All of them. Even the public apologies." Emily nodded. "Especially the public apologies. I think it is important other women know that what you did was not wrong, that defending yourself was the right thing. And family therapy." "We have already started," said Michael. "We go together once a week besides our individual sessions." "And how is it going?" "It is difficult," admitted Emily, "but necessary. I am learning to handle my anxiety about money without trying to control other people. And I am learning to have difficult conversations instead of avoiding them," added Michael. I looked at both of them looking for signs of manipulation or acting, but what I saw was sincerity, exhaustion, vulnerability, but sincerity. "And what about the wedding?" I asked. "We have decided to postpone it indefinitely," said Michael, "until we are sure we are together for the right reasons, not out of dependency or fear. And if it turns out you are not made for each other." They looked at each other. "Then we will face it," said Emily, but in a mature way without hurting others in the process. That afternoon after they left, I stayed on my terrace, watching the sun set over the ocean. There was something deeply peaceful in that moment, as if a storm that had lasted years had finally passed. Rita appeared with a bottle of champagne shortly after. "How did it go?" she asked. "Better than I expected. Are you going to change the will? If they fulfill the conditions for a full year, yes. But the foundation will still receive the majority. And how do you feel about that? At peace for the first time in years, at peace." Rita uncorked the champagne and poured 2 glasses. "To the Dignity Foundation," she toasted. "To the Dignity Foundation," I repeated. 2 weeks later, I received a call I did not expect. It was Sarah, the wedding planner. "Mrs. Agnes, do you have a moment to talk?" "Of course, Sarah. How are you?" "Very well. In fact, I was calling to tell you something interesting. Remember little Lily, the one who was going to be the flower girl?" "Of course." "Her mother called me yesterday. Apparently, Lily has been asking her about you. She wants to know if the nice lady who defended her is okay." "Defended the girl?" "Yes. Lily told her mother you had defended her from the bad lady, who screamed, referring to Emily. She has been worried about you all these months." I was speechless. "Agnes, are you there?" "Yes, I am here. Can I talk to her? Her mother says she would love it. Shall I give you her number?" That afternoon I called Lily's mother. The little girl got on the phone shyly at first, but soon she was telling me about school, about her drawings, about how she had been worried about the lady who was brave. "Can I come see you?" she asked me. "I want to give you a drawing I made for you." "I would love that, Lily." When Lily came with her mother to visit me the following week, she brought me a drawing of an older woman with a big smile surrounded by flowers, with the ocean in the background. "Is it you?" she explained. "Happy in your new house." I stuck the drawing on my refrigerator where I see it every morning when I make my coffee. It has been 6 months since the wedding that never was. The Dignity Foundation is now a reality with small but functional offices downtown. We have helped more than 50 women navigate family conflicts, establish financial boundaries, and find legal support when they needed it. Michael and Emily have fulfilled all the conditions of the will. Their public apologies, published in the same newspaper that had told my story, have inspired other families to have difficult but necessary conversations. They continue in therapy, individual and couple, and are rebuilding their relationship from more solid foundations. I continue painting on my terrace every morning, watching the sun rise over the ocean. My life is smaller in some aspects, an apartment instead of a house, fewer material possessions, but infinitely richer in the aspects that matter. Rita has become the sister I never had. The women of the foundation are my chosen family, and Michael slowly is becoming the son I always hoped he would be. Respectful, considerate, and capable of seeing his mother as a complete person. Yesterday, I received a letter from Helen, the woman who wrote me at the beginning. She has established firm boundaries with her son and is considering moving to a smaller apartment near her friends. "Thank you for teaching me that it is never too late to live on our own terms," she wrote. This morning, while I read her letter on my terrace with the sun warming my face, I smile for real for the first time in years. It is not the polite smile I used to use to hide my discomfort, nor the forced smile to maintain family peace. It is the smile of a woman who has found herself, the smile of the quietest victory of all the victory of living authentically. On my coffee table is the photo album I saved when I sold the house. Photos of baby Michael, of my late husband, of happy moments from the past. But next to it is my sketchbook full of plans for the future, new programs for the foundation, landscapes I want to paint, trips I want to take. The past has its place honored and cherished, but the future belongs to me, and that I discover makes all the difference in the world.